Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show with Lisa and Nancy, publishers of Big Blend magazines, and nature photographer Margot Carrera. Welcome to the Nature Connection, everybody. Today we're very excited because, we're here every fourth Friday with Margot Carrera, who is a fine art nature photographer, and you've got to go to her site on Etsy. You can go to margotcarrera.etsy.com, and that's MargotCarrera. Did I get that right, Margot?
Yeah, you did.
I always have to have a spelling test, on these shows, but no, Margot is fantastic. And not only can you, get her prints and everything on there, but she's got beautiful scarves and all kinds of beautiful things for your home and for you when it comes to nature. And, we've been doing this show with her for a couple of years, just over 3 years now. Who's counting? But it's really special because we talk about nature connection. And today we have a series of interviews all talking about nature destinations where you can connect with nature. And of course, your backyard could be something like that. It might be a patio with some plants that a hummingbird comes to. There's so many ways to connect with nature, but it is ultimately about respecting nature. So before we talk with Margot, and Nancy's here too. Nancy's back on the show. Nancy, you doing good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good, we missed you.
Yes, we missed you.
Thank you.
She's back. She's got doggies at her feet, and I don't. I'm jealous. They sat down with her first.
Yeah.
But hey, this is the thing, the Nature Connection. We've got some great interviews coming up. Nancy, Margot, and I are going to talk about nature connections, and we're going to talk about respect of nature and also places and destinations around the world and in this country. But from there, we've got an interview with travel writer and author Linda Ballou, who talks about her experience in Ecuador and also talks a little bit about LA's nature connection and how things are improving in some areas, especially in her backyard. And we also chat with travel writer Jamie Edwards, who takes us to Stowe, Vermont as a destination, and also talks about the community and their way of staying sustainable for the environment and ultimately for the health of the people. From there, we have a whole other segment. So as many segments as we have, they will all be linked in the show notes so you can jump from one interview to the next. We have Lisa Evans, who is a travel writer and author of 100 Things to Do in Coastal Mississippi Before You Die. She loves nature, history, music. That's a main, nature is a big deal for her. Part of also why she moved to coastal Mississippi. And she talks about some of the things you can experience in Mississippi and really connect with nature, some of the places. We also touch on climate change because she is in a tornado/hurricane corridor. So that's an interesting conversation to have. Kathleen Walls, who is a travel writer and author, also especially focusing on Florida and Georgia and the southeast, is on the show with Dr. Diane Dobry. The two of them were back on together. They're our Florida duo, it seems. Dr. Diane Dobry is a travel writer, journalist. She also wrote for a newspaper out in Florida. And they both talk about Florida destinations. We talk about Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, which is near Titusville on the Space Coast. Diane talks about all the different springs that you can go to, like Rainbow Springs, Homosassa Springs. And so we talk about that. And we touch on some issues that Florida is also facing. Florida is a major travel destination, and some things that we should be aware of as travelers. And also, if you live there, there are some interesting things going on that you may want to know about. And also about not throwing trash around. So just saying, that's a whole other episode there. Also, we have the two Carolinas represented. Steve and Karen Wilson, known as Mr. and Mrs. Wild, from owners of the Lion and the Rose Bed and Breakfast in Asheville, talk about Pisgah National Forest, the Blue Ridge Parkway, Smoky Mountain National Park, all of those regions, and what you can experience throughout the seasons, from frozen waterfalls in winter to wildflowers in spring and summer. They talk about salamanders, butterflies, bird watching, bears, you name it. And Joe Clark talks about some of her backyard destinations in South Carolina, all in the the Grand Strand region of South Carolina, near Myrtle Beach. Some of the efforts of what was a historic plantation that turned into a state park and also a botanical garden, and what they're doing to protect birds and some of the longleaf pines. And it's just a really amazing things that teach not just travelers, but also the youth, which is also very important. So a lot going on, a lot of Southeast. We've got the Northeast, we've got California, and today we're going to go to Africa and California as well. So Margot, I believe you're taking us to California today. Since you're in San Diego, you're taking us not too far away from you, right?
That's right. When I thought of all my favorite destinations, and I've been to many because I go out, my lifetime has been in search of sacred spaces. I've been to Machu Picchu, Lake Titicaca, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, to say a few sacred spaces. But nobody really knows that in California, Southern California, there is this beautiful sacred space that many go to and love, and it's one of our nature parks. It's Big Bear Lake, and they don't know how sacred that space is. And I grew up near there. I've been there hundreds of times, and I brought my family. My kids learned how to ski there, and LA is really close to it, so everybody, when they're on break, they go up to Big Bear Lake to relax and unwind, and so I'm wanting to share Big Bear Lake with you today.
Big Bear is beautiful. Nancy and I, we went there many years ago, and is there a place called Fawn Lake, Fawn something, FAWN near there? And we were up there, and at that time, I'm thinking it was about 15 years ago, Nancy, I think, that we went up there. And Big Bear was actually experiencing a little bit of a drought, but while we were there, we were lucky enough to see some spring wildflowers, going on some hikes. And then the areas also experienced wildfires too, as we all know.
Yes.
But at that time, and I think the lake is doing a lot better now, especially after last year's winter and then the recent winter.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of water back in, and they got some more this winter too. But actually, I want to talk about a time when the lake was depleted. We had the drought, and the trees really were affected. They were becoming infested with beetles, and they were dying. And it was a serious time. And so when I was growing up, I want to share with you that I know that I came to understand myself as what a lot of people call an energy sensitive. I can walk into the room and feel a shift in energy. I can feel when it feels good. I can feel when it feels, chaotic, or it feels like, oh, better not go in there, kind of harmful. And so I went with a group of people up to Big Bear because it was having a tough time. And we did, I studied, by the way, with shamans from Peru. So we went with a group of, they weren't shamans, they were from all religions, and they were just people that really loved Big Bear, wanted to pray for it, wanted to, whatever they knew how to help to heal the situation. They wanted to do it from a sense of the divine, from the sense of God, from whatever their belief system was. But there were 12 of us, and we went up and we did prayers. The shamans always taught me to really respect the land and give back to the land, and they create ceremonies to show that to the land. And so we went up there, and we did this for an entire day, and we could actually feel the shift in energy once we were done. It was just beautiful. I mean, it was cloudy when we were there, and this huge circle of light, clouds went away in a circle, like Big Bear was surrounded by light, just light pouring in, and it was just a beautiful experience. And after that, things started to change and shift in the area. We noticed they all started to take care of the trees that were damaged, which they had just left damaged for a long time. So, with beetles, you go from one tree, then it can affect another and another. So it's good to get that out. And they started the people up there started taking care of that. And we also noticed that, and people love this right now. It was even on our news. We noticed that eagles were returning to the lake area. And now there's a very, very popular eagle cam up in the forest there, where they're filming 24/7 this pair of eagles. Yeah, they just laid 3 eggs, but they laid it before the winter and before those big storms came through. So everybody's been watching, like, what is going on with these birds? Are they still okay? Are the eggs still okay? And but they're also noticing how beautifully this couple, the male and the female, take care of the eggs and one another. And it is showing humanity just how loving and how nurturing these animals, and how responsive to one another as a couple, and caring for one another they can be. So it's truly an education for humanity to tune into that. Eagle Cam, it's on Facebook, and it's Friends of Big Bear Valley and Big Bear Nest Cam. And
Nice.
even if you type in Big Bear Nest Cam, you're going to see. And when that big storm came through, the bird was literally covered in snow, and she was still sitting on those eggs. Literally, and all you could see was her head. And then her spouse, which his name is Shadow, would come in, and he would relieve her so she could go warm up. And all she had to do was just call him once, and he was there within seconds.
Wow.
Literally seconds. Awesome. Yeah, like a responsive male. Yeah, we want a male like that, don't we?
I was just going to say, how many wives are watching this going, hey,
they're
dude,
like, okay, why can't you be like an eagle?
Yeah.
But now,
I want to share that.
I wanted to say, Margot, you're going to make it now that nothing gets done. No magazines are going to get published, because you know what Nancy's going to be doing 24/7 now.
Yeah. She's watching the cam.
I know. Well, it's how
I watch while she works.
Hey, no, but it's amazing. If you watch those for like a straight hour, you'll see some tiny movements that at first you may notice them, but not understand them. And then if you watch again, you start to pick up patterns. And then once you pick up patterns, you start to think. And then once you start to think, the world opens up. Like, why are they doing that? And what's behind that? And what does it mean? And all these things. And then you start to put yourself in the mindset of the bird or animal that you're watching. And then once you do that, you start to understand their world. And once you understand that, you understand how connected we all are, and how everything we do either helps or messes up. And the rest of nature, and the responsibility of being a good caring person that takes care of both sides, humanity and the rest of nature.
These
Because we
webcams
are
are
part of it.
powerful. They're
Yeah.
powerful to do. They're non-invasive to the animals and the birds. And it takes right now there's a movement of taking the park outside the park because of how much we are almost loving our parks too much. Depending on the places, like a lot of national parks right now require reservations, like Yellowstone, Rocky Mountain National Park, things like that. And it's a good thing because it helps balance out the amount of traffic and foot traffic and even trash and how we are behaving in parks and lets nature have a breather, you know? And so these webcams, I mean, not everyone can go everywhere around the world, but you can online and you can appreciate and connect with them. So I think this is just such, this is a one way to connect with nature around the world is through these webcams. I'm addicted to one on the Yukon Wilderness area. It's because you see little baby moose and mama moose, and then here comes the fox, here comes the wolf, here comes the coyote. But, it's a way to still, you're not quite coexisting and being one-on-one, right? But we're being able to observe and learn, like Nancy's saying. And Margot, I think, isn't this a lighter footprint for nature? But we still need to get out, but it's still a lighter footprint.
I want to say it's a way to connect, just like Nancy said. She could connect and really tune in to how that animal is feeling in that animal's world. And we're watching, right now, those 3 eggs and how the parents are taking care of them. And so the world's watching and they're starting to see how beautiful a relationship those birds have. And they're not just birds, they're not, it's not just a nest. There's spirit there, there's love there, there's respect and care for one another. And we all just said, wouldn't we like a man that's so responsive like that?
Yeah.
Well, look, he's teaching, that bird is teaching humanity, how to be nurturing and caring of one's progeny and
don't know why we have decided we're so above.
Yes.
And that animals don't think or reason and that they don't have emotion, which is totally wrong. They work almost 100% on emotion. And if you watch a male defend his mate, if you watch a female defend her babies, I don't know how you could ever question their motives.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, oh, it's nature. And then you look at humanity where sometimes the male doesn't protect the family. Sometimes the mother doesn't protect her own babies. Yeah. So really, there's a lesson to be learned by watching nature, huge lessons.
Yeah, yeah. So I like your idea of the webcam being a lighter footprint because I think what we went up and we did those ceremonies, what we noticed is, and what we felt from the space was the mountain was depleted. Being so close to LA, people coming when they're exhausted and they're coming and they're letting their worries and concerns and it's wonderful. They heal up there and they can feel enlightened. But, as an energy sensitive, I know that we let go of our density, the heavier energies, and then we feel, quote, enlightened, we feel better. And so it's good to give back to nature, when it has helped you feel better. It's good to just kind of tune into the space and honor it like you would a church. When you go to church, you go, you feel better, and it's sacred to you. You treat it with respect. You send your love to anybody that's there that's needing healing. You can do the same to the space. If the trees are in trouble, send your love and healing, prayers to the trees and just the lake, if it's drying out, just send your prayers that the water comes and fills it up again, and just you don't trash your church. You don't trash a sacred space like Big Bear. And some people are going up and having so much fun, it's a ski area too, and it is full of fun. But you don't want to leave your trash behind. You want to respect the space that allowed you to have the fun. You don't want to go skiing on an area that, maybe, the animals, you shouldn't be you're not on the run, you're off on the other side,
Right.
where maybe animals are raising their young, or, or special plants are, subject to being squashed, whatever it is, you be respectful of the space that you're in, honor it as if it were sacred space, and you're going to have those beautiful spaces for the next generation, and then on again, and you're going to have that connection where you get to see the animals, and you're going to have that connection, whether it's on camera or whether you go there, with binoculars or something.
I wanted to touch on this because you talk about, the care of the land, right? But I want to go back to the emotional side of it, the energetic side. We all know, like you were talking about, there's people like, ooh, energy. When there are people called energy vampires that literally suck the life out of you. Yeah. And you may like them, but it's like when when that person, that friend calls, you go, oh God, here goes an hour of whining. And you care for them, but they're in that, it's like, I don't have the energy for right now. And sometimes you just don't answer that call, and you need to. And yet now it still nags you so no matter what, it's still sucking the life out of you. And we have to put up those boundaries in life and say no sometimes, right? As individuals, just so that, it's that adage of being on the airplane and they give you that, you've got to put the oxygen mask out first before you can help others. It's the same thing for nature. So when we go into nature, I wonder about this ball of energy, because energy doesn't die. Are we, they talk about Wi-Fi, like a lot of national parks. I mean, that's the highest form of protection you can have in this country and around the world for these sacred spaces, and really they look at Wi-Fi. What is 5G's doing? This energy going through plants, and how it can actually, if you think that whales migrate through this magnetic kind of field, right? They understand these sonar things and stuff I can't understand, but I know it's scientifically proven. And if we mess up with their sonar magnetic fields, we are going to mess with their migration route, right? Which is now going to mean babies aren't getting born. Whales will breach in the wrong places and die. And so we know it's negative. So this is all energetic fields. So what I'm wondering about is if someone can just energetically dump their baggage on you on a phone call, right? And you feel tired. How when we go to nature, like I wonder about this, because in a way I've wondered, like tree huggers are like, it's not just hugging you don't want to suck the life out of the tree. You want to give love back to the tree. Like Nancy has that wonderful meditation exercise for a tree where you can meditate, put your hand on the tree to feel the tree's heartbeat, because we are part tree. Look at our DNA. There's scientific evidence on this. We are part tree and part mushroom, and trees and mushrooms are related too. Just saying. But I wonder about that. Do you think the shamans understand that part of, and the Native American tribes, I know they understand that connection, and Nancy's going to talk about her connection, when she went to Africa, her very fast, like she was like literally thrown in cold water to understand how to really connect with nature. But do you think that energy, I mean, it's like, even if you're in a quiet place and here comes really loud music, and I love music and loud music too, but all of a sudden it's like the birds are like, what are you doing, man? There's some like, you're playing death metal in my park.
Chaotic. Yeah. You're introducing chaotic waves of energy. When you do that, and they're used to the tranquil, peaceful waves of energy. Yes, because as a child, I told you I was energy sensitive. I can also see it and feel it. And when I was at Big Bear, I literally felt I felt the depletion of energy. It was very low energy. And then as we kept on working through the day with our prayers and our everything that we did, and we went to different places that we felt were in need, we felt that energy lift, and we felt that we could see it in the atmosphere. The space got clearer. Even with our own eyes, you could see like the area got brighter. It got looking through space. It wasn't as foggy, or it was like I don't know, like a crystal, looking through a bright crystal, as opposed to an opaque crystal. It was kind of like that in the day. And so we knew things were happening with our prayers, and we knew things were happening in the different areas. And by the end, I guess we could see with the animals coming back, because the eagles had been gone for quite a while, that we shifted things by just 12 of us, just with prayer, just with connecting and showing the earth respect, showing and praying for its healing, praying for the shift in the energy and lightening it up. It was given back, it was like replenished, and not just by the 12 of us. Obviously, that came from the answer to our prayers.
Yeah, but that is, nature is asking us all the time, do you care?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and a lot of times the answer is, who cares? Because
we
want
it.
what we want. But if you think being the operative word, that everything that we have, everything that we do has come or been copied from nature. Everything. You don't sing. You would not sing if there weren't birds. We wouldn't sing. Every single thing that humans do and have done through history have used or been taken from nature.
Yeah, or inspired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to protect. We need to protect the motherhood.
And honor and respect it.
It's a relationship. It's about a relationship. If you don't acknowledge,
and I say motherhood, but it could be fatherhood too.
Yeah,
I don't want
to. Yeah, look at that male eagle. There's plenty of fatherhood happening there.
To be sexist.
And sisterhood and brotherhood, here's if we, bringing it full circle in this, it's our relationship with nature, and if we don't acknowledge the person in a relationship, that relationship goes away. And that's where that negativity comes. So when you talk about prayer or intent and just connecting, meditating, everybody's got a different way to do it. And when you're out there and you feel, you're part of solutions, you care, you just show acknowledgement goes a long way. And that's a positive energy. When you meet someone who's truly has integrity to that connection with you at that moment. If they're meeting you and on the phone while they're talking to you, that's, they're not connecting with you, right? So it's about having that connection. And that means you are aware of them, observing, giving. There's a back and forth. And that's the problem, is we lose that connection as we build cities. And that's who we are as human beings. That's not going to stop, but it doesn't mean we give over one for the other. And so we need to reconnect with nature and say, man, we've sucked over the last few years. We need to pick it up a little bit and connect with you and realize how awesome you are. And thank you to the whales taking the carbon out of our atmosphere. all of
Mm.
these things that animals and trees, thank you, trees and fungus. I'm going back to that again. But it is acknowledging your partner. And that is, I think this is full circle. So Nancy, let's talk about you and your first, you took tours to Kenya as a very young lady, and then ended up working with Joy Adamson. And Joy Adamson,
Mm.
everyone, if you've heard of, this is a while ago, so I know some of our younger generation listeners may not have heard of Elsa the Lion and Born free as the
Mm.
wind blows, right?
Mhm.
So this story and movie and book and song were inspired by a lady, Joy Adamson. Her and her husband, George Adamson, were conservationists in Africa, in Kenya, and he went into Botswana and all of that area too. And they specifically were really trying to help lions, and because the poaching was so huge at the time. What was going on with poaching, with poachers
Mm.
coming from all over the world to come and kill these beautiful sentient beings, like really. And so they did a lot, and also tried to. Joy Adamson was a person trying to showcase the connection between animals and humans, and then that connection can be there, which totally annoyed the scientific community. So there's a lot of interesting stuff about all of that. But Nancy's a wildlife artist and did a lot of work for the organization Born Free. We've had people on the show for years, and that organization has done a lot of change over the years. But at this point, she ended up working for Joy Adamson and out in Kenya, and we both moved there. And I was a little baby, and Nancy went out on her first day with Joy Adamson to learn about what to expect being out in the wild. And Nancy grew up in LA, in Hollywood, so had handled animals and was teaching kids and people about animals, wildlife in classrooms and things like that. But now she was in the great wilds of Africa, and it's a little different living in it. So, do you want to tell everybody about your first real true coexistence lesson, Nancy?
Well, I met Joy Adamson at an art show in North Hollywood, and she was judging paintings, and I had painted a portrait of a lion, and she looked at it and she goes, "You're really good, but that lion's in a zoo." And she was spot on correct because it was behind bars, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
It showed in the painting. I didn't put the bars in, but she nailed it. I mean, I couldn't argue with her because she was quite right. And she didn't know who I was or if I'd ever been to Africa or anything like that. And she said, "But you know animals." And so she hired me to take tours to Africa. And I remember the first tour where I was counseled by the people who sold the tours to lie to everybody and say I'd been to Africa several times. Well, I sucked at that because I hadn't, and I really had no clue. And no matter how many like films or books that I went through, it just didn't wash because Africa is so different from the States. So eventually, we all sat down and we chatted about the idea of going somewhere completely opposite to how you were brought up. And the joy in that, if, and it's a big if you could be non-judgmental and open your mind to things being different. And that sounds, like, oh, of course. It isn't, of course. It's not that easy. There's religious beliefs, there's all kind of beliefs that you were brought up with that you have to throw out the window and entertain the idea that somebody does something different that works for them over in somewhere else that works for them that may not work for you where you are, and it's part of growing up. It's in my mind, growing up mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, especially spiritually, of being able to accept different behaviors. So I found myself leading tours to a place I'd never been, and doing really crazy things to try to get people to connect with the idea of being part of nature and not so separated, because it came full circle to me that in the American way of life for a lot of people, not everyone, so don't send me a ton of emails, um, that some people are very connected in this country to nature, but a lot of people have no clue. They're so, I guess I would use the word civilized is not the right word, but they're in habits that don't let us respect nature, that don't entertain that everything we have in your pots and pans in your kitchen come from nature, that every single thing that we have comes from nature. Doesn't come from humans. Really doesn't. And that's a hard thing to swallow for a lot of people. So when we look at protecting nature, you are in a sense protecting yourself and others that will come beyond and way after you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's another way or better. I'm sure there's a better way of saying it, but that's the way I'm saying.
Well, I think you kind of, when you first went out into nature with Joy, felt a
Yeah.
little bit the scare of death there.
Well, the first lesson was we're sitting out in the middle of Samburu. She's all like, take your clothes off. I'm like, I beg your pardon. And she said, take your clothes off or you don't work here. I was like, wow, I just flew all the way over here. I have a job that I've always like, this is cool. I'm going to work here with animals and be out in nature. And the idea of taking your clothes off almost killed it. I was like, why am I? And she's just looking at me like, what's your problem? All the people around me, there were African guards there. I mean, they only covered their private parts. That's it. And so they're all looking at me and they all got the giggles, man. They were laughing. And what is the big deal? So I took my clothes off and I sat on a rock and she made me sit there naked. And then after about 4 or 5 minutes, she blindfolded me and she says, now you're going to learn to hear, you're going to learn to smell, and now you'll finally learn to think. I was like, wow. And she was quite right. She really was. I really didn't smell unless something was huge as a smell until the blindfold went on. So the hearing, no traffic, blessing, and you could start to hear things. You could feel things. The senses have to kick in, and then the feeling comes. It was friggin' amazing to me.
Did you get
Yeah,
scared?
and oh, at first, well, first of all, just taking your clothes off in front of people you don't know, and sitting on a rock naked that was a deal breaker.
Mm.
And it took me about 10, 15 minutes to make up my mind, and she's just sitting there looking at me like, you're such an idiot. You know, I was like, well, and then you look around and really everybody only had their private parts covered. So I thought, okay, maybe I could just keep my private parts covered. No,
Mm.
she's like, you need it more than you think.
So it was a lesson
And
of vulnerability and
yeah,
Yes.
humility.
and
Hmm.
trust,
Mm.
trust, not trusting other people. It was trust in yourself and
Yeah.
standing up. And there were so many lessons in one lesson that I was just like, okay, I can do this.
Mhm.
And it's actually kind of halfway through. I was like, this is kind of fun. Let's just toss these clothes.
Well, yeah, I'm want to say about
It
this
was
because there's something
liberating.
you learn. You don't always have to take your clothes off, but there is
Yeah.
um, about coming back to your senses, being in nature, and um, you can track. Hunters know this, birders know it,
Mm,
wildlife photographers. You can smell the animals. You
yeah.
know where the animals by smell.
Hmm.
You can, and listening.
Mm,
Birders know where the birds are, not by
mm.
their binoculars and, by their cameras. It
Yeah,
is
they help,
by
but
listening to the bird calls.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's what, oh, there's that. And sometimes you never ever see the bird, but you can hear it's there and you can say, okay, I've been in the space
Hmm.
with the bird. It's a huge thing to learn. It's learning all these languages in a way, right,
Hmm.
Nancy? For you, with
Yeah.
you learned all those languages.
And then there was like, oh, don't walk, get on your hands and knees. And there's two benefits to that. Crawling through a forest or the desert or wherever is, first of all, if you have children, you will understand what a small child is seeing while you lead them through something. You're seeing, maybe 3, 4 feet above them, but they're down on the ground, and what they're seeing doesn't relate to what you're seeing. So when you talk to them about it, you're talking about what you're seeing. You're not talking about what they're seeing.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
there's a difference there, but there's a reconnection of, especially if you go barefoot and you don't wear gloves and you put your bare palms on the ground and your knees and your toes, you feel something way more than when you walk through nature standing up and being taller than most of the things in the forest or the desert, whatever,
Mm.
and feeling like you control it as to being part of it. It's a whole different feeling, and it's something that made a big difference in my life. And I think everybody should have an opportunity to do it, but don't do it alone. Make sure
Hmm.
that you're in a safe space or people
Camping, maybe.
around. Yeah, just
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Wear a
And I
bathing
don't
suit.
mean, and I don't mean getting drunk and jumping off a pier naked. That is not
Yeah, no, no,
what
no.
I'm talking
No,
about.
it's about being
Yeah.
in nature. You know, it's it's taking away our like when you were talking about civilization, it's
Mhm.
taking away our barriers, our physical barriers, and embracing it and being part of it. It's such
And
a
remembering where we came from and how we use nature.
So Margot, are you okay now that we were talking about nakedness?
I totally agree with you. She was
Mhm.
tapping into your vulnerability because when
Mhm.
you become vulnerable,
Oh.
all your senses open up. And so
Mhm.
we rarely pay attention to our senses. I
Mhm.
mean, I have watched people run through a forest that we have here in San Diego, and it's a nature preserve, Torrey Pines, and they're
Hmm.
running, and I swear to you, they may not notice anything of nature. They can
Mhm.
see the ocean, they can see the plants around
Mhm.
them, but they're not going
But
to hear an animal, a bird,
mhm.
a sound, a feeling. They're running through thinking about what they're going to be doing, they're, at work today or what have you. And when I
Mhm.
take people through, I have them not speak at all. And I
Mhm.
have them, come to certain spots and I have them sit and just listen and close their eyes
Mhm.
and tune into to their senses and
Hmm.
sense the earth. Like when you said on your hands and feet,
Mhm.
earth, you're sensing earth energy. You have that connection all the way down to the core of the earth, central core of the earth. You can connect with earth energy. And that earth energy is just as light as the light that comes from the sun. It just if you were to
Mhm.
close your eyes and just tune into it,
Mhm.
you would see it. I think everybody could see it. I can see it, but I
Hmm.
don't know for sure, but I think you could see it. And so when you're your hand palms are down, it's facing to the core of the earth, and you're connecting with that energy, and you're allowing that
Mm.
energy to fill your body. And yeah, I bet you felt, did you feel when you did that one on your hands and knees, did you feel energized?
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have to like overcome your educated mind, if I could put it
Mm-hmm.
that way. You have to overcome a lot of the things you've been taught. Because we're taught to somehow suppress feelings and make our feelings come out to others as acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm saying this right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not
You are.
saying that, yeah, I'm
Mhm.
trying to, it's like one of the exercises we did, which I really loved. And every once in a while, I'll go try and do it again, and it always works, is if you don't pull a leaf off of something, if you can find a leaf of a tree or a bush, and you put one of your hands, not both, so don't cover the leaf. Open your palm and don't pull the leaf off. Put your palm under a leaf and close your eyes and feel the pulse of the plant because there is a pulse. It's like a
Mhm.
heartbeat to the plant. And it'll take you maybe 10, 15 times to actually get there before you feel it because there's so many top barriers that we have
Mm.
about plants not being, like they don't have a brain, they don't have this, they don't have that. I'm like, dude, they were here before us and they're still here until we kill them all out. But if you can relate to that, then you're not so, oh, let's clear this field, let's kill this, let's chop down these trees. All these kinds of things that we do without thinking.
Mm.
And assuming that they have no brains, assuming that they have no feelings, assuming so that we can feel okay about what we're doing. Yeah, a tree has a brain, most likely, but it's not the same as yours. Doesn't mean they don't have one.
Right.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
It's conscious.
Yeah, it's
Consciousness, yeah.
alive, and they've been alive longer than us. So I would kind of guess they got something going for them
Mm.
we shouldn't disturb.
Mm. And my side is I'd like to talk about resilience
Mm.
of nature and what nature
Ah,
teaches us of resilience. Nancy and I just have gone through like a whirlwind, literally, of seasons. And of course, we're in season change right now. As this airs, we're getting closer to spring. Thank goodness.
yay.
I'll do anything for spring. It's my favorite
Yay.
season. It's growth,
Mm.
it's possibility, rebirth, renewal. It's exciting.
Mm.
Um, we recently went through all these ice storms in Oregon, in central Oregon, all the way up through to northeast Oregon, while we were in Joseph, which is right on the border of Idaho and in the Wawona Mountains. Gorgeous, beautiful. I don't want to talk about the driving we went through, but it was climate change is happening and these cycles
Yeah.
of change are really happening. And as travelers, full-time travelers, where Nancy and I, go to parks, public lands, document them on our Love Your Parks tour. Winter has been we've driven through a lot. And I mean a ton. Tornadoes,
Yeah.
hurricanes. We've driven through wildfires. We've lived in wildfires. We've done a little bit of everything, earthquakes, you name it. Um, but this recent winter, we got caught in snow blizzards on mountain passes, driving through it at night through ice storms, in little tiny towns amongst trucks and people skidding around. I don't even know why we're alive, but we are, thankfully. Highways being
Mm.
closed, you name it. We experienced it in Oregon, Nevada, then driving to Texas, roads closing, thunderstorms, rainstorms, snow, ice, roads closing behind us, and, no matter where we landed, all of a sudden here's more snow, even in Texas. But we saw this, there's a humility that comes with resilience. And sometimes you have to just go, okay, I'm going to have to handle this. And there's a resilience to continue forward, be smart and safe when you're going through this as a human. But watching nature be resilient through this is amazing. Watching birds, or bald eagles nesting up in the mountains in the snow, osprey. We've seen so much wildlife do things and how they handle it. Here we were in Joseph, Oregon, just feet of snow and ice. And, in the morning, I'd wake up at 3, 4 in the morning, hearing an owl right outside the window and going, how the heck are you doing this, man? This is insane. And so even though like this was some extreme weather, even for their area, I got myself out there and walked in it. And I don't have the shoes for it, but I did it anyway. And there's this quiet that you're crunching through the ice and snow and wondering, how are these animals doing? And there's tracks that I saw that I thought were mountain lion, turned out it was true. I do believe 90% sure on it. Just that peacefulness that can come from it is something we're lacking, and it's getting very difficult to find even in our parks and refuges. It's hard to find places without power lines, without some kind of things that we're doing for society and civilization. And I understand we need these things, but there's got to be a little bit more balance. It's getting very difficult. I want to do this program where we're going to record audio of places, these sacred and national park places, and records of people that are, blind, or if they cannot see, or just sight impaired, we'll be able to listen. And I start listening now where we're going. We were just in Texas, South Texas, a day ago. We were in Port Aransas National Wildlife Refuge, Port Aransas, and also went to Padre National Seashore yesterday. And the difference of sound is phenomenal. Again, that power of sound, of what you can learn from nature, listening, that learning patience of listening, right? We're so used to, is there a ding on the phone? And when you're in these areas and your phone doesn't work and you now must succumb to getting rid of the ping of the phone, it's pretty darn brilliant. We need these spaces to unhook. Listening to the wind, watching how birds were using the power of the wind to fish and to hunt, watching the waves, the ocean, and being in, whether it's we're sunburned and it feels darn good. Thank you, sunshine. You become alive, whether it's freezing ice and snow, heat, intense wind, no matter what. If you get yourself out there, try and wear the best clothes you can for it, though, right? And be prepared for it.
Yeah.
But there's a level of discomfort, and then you move past the discomfort, and then you start to connect and really observe what's going on, right? Watching the wildlife, watching the birds. You can hike in places and think there's no birds, and all of a sudden birds fly out of nowhere, just even from the brush, right where you're walking. And when you start to witness and listen, there's something amazing that happens, and you start to wonder, like, how are they doing this? You don't hear the phones, you don't hear the cars, you don't hear that. There is something that fills your soul. You are energized. And if you have sleeping problems, go into nature, go into the wilds, go into the discomfort zone to get the comfort zone, is what I'm saying. There's something that nature does. And I agree with Margot about give back. I think that's part of our thing is everything we do, Nancy and I, is about travel and traveling about nature and sustainability. And when you are out there, there's something that puts you back to your primal core of who you are as an individual, as a human, which is part of the animal species. So when you are out in nature, you actually are going to your prime core, your primal being of who you are. And if you've just got to go through the discomfort to the comfort. and it feels mighty good. And you will sleep better. You will wake up refreshed, and you will wake up wanting to do it again. And once the bug bites, you're going back out, even though I'm covered in mosquito bites after 2 weeks ago being covered in snow and ice.
Sometimes
I have mosquito bites.
sometimes when we stop and have a picnic, butterflies land on you.
Mm-hmm.
And they are so intricate and beautiful and delicate that I find it a blessing when a butterfly lands, usually on your hands, and they walk around and their little proboscis tonguey is like checking you out, like, do you have a food source? Are you a food source?
Are you sweet or not?
Or salty.
It's like, what are what are you
You're
looking
sweaty.
for? But it's moisture, yeah. But if you take the time to, instead of shooing them away, is to really look at how intricately beautiful they are.
Yeah, it's about that patience of sitting. If you sit with nature, like, don't do the running across. I mean, people, if you're going to jog, you might as well do it in a beautiful place. But if you can run and then slow down and just sit down. And once nature realizes, okay, you're sitting, you're chilling out, we've sussed you out. Give it time. Let everybody in, the nature land look at you and go, all right, they're chilled out. They're doing their thing. We can get back to our thing. And that's when you can observe. It's about that patience. And that's part of resilience. Again, the lessons of resilience. And they really will teach you. Nature will teach you, like Nancy was saying in the beginning.
We are a part of nature, whether you like it or you don't.
Right. Right. So
we are connected and part of nature. So if you destroy nature, you are, in fact, destroying part of yourself.
Yeah. Well, nature
or your future.
Or your future. So the climate change, we're excited. We have a whole bunch of great conversations about destinations across the country and around the world. And we're very excited about this programming today, some special episodes. So again, all the links are in the show notes. Of course, just go to bigblendradio.com or youtube.com/@bigblendradio, Facebook, Big Blend Radio and X, I think, but you'll find it all there. And Margot, as always, so good to have you back on the show.
Yeah. Oh, happy to be here. Happy Nancy's here too.
Yeah, and Miss Nancy's back. You see what nature did? We went out in nature. Now we're rocking and rolling and got some sunshine. Everyone, highly recommend going to Padre Island National Seashore. You will see brown pelicans, white pelicans. Aransas, Port Aransas. We're going to be doing a show on all of this in the future. Our friend Sharon Kurtz, who's also a travel writer, is out there right now at a festival, a birding festival in Port Aransas. So we're going to be doing a special show on that coming up soon. So you can learn all about these beautiful whooping cranes that are out there. It's actually one of the most endemic species. The actual initial, I want to say herd, but they're not a herd, group of flock of these whooping cranes, which we did get to witness. They're amazing. They are just so graceful and beautiful. It was magical. It was magical to witness. So we'll be doing that. So everyone keep up with Margot at margotcarrera.etsy.com. And of course, us at bigblendradio.com. Linda Ballou is up next. Thanks, Margot.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show. Follow us at bigblendradio.com and keep up with Margot at margotcarrera.etsy.com.